is a digital shadow of everything out there, potentially that could get leaked by the U.S. government. And is that something that goes on your mind, or something you have to advise institutions on when, in fact, the thing you're trying the most to let not happen is happening in a weird way? And you don't have to answer this question, but you must come up with this a lot. I mean, people must ask you, if a certain government has copies of everything, how can you eradicate them elsewhere?
I guess it's, what are you trying to protect them from who to some extent with that? So regardless of whatever the NSA is doing, you still want to stop the bad guys in terms of the organised criminals, and other nation states potentially getting access to your systems, or and if you're leaking that data publicly, that's always going to be a bad thing anyway. So for us, the whole NSA stuff in the news hasn't really altered the message or the business case for why you'd consider digital shadows. I think the interesting thing for me about that, I mean, it's obviously sparking a really important debate in our society about to what extent you want the state to monitor communications, and there's obviously a privacy trade-off versus security in that we've got to have the debate about as in a healthy democracy, and work out where we want to sit. But I think the thing that struck me was that despite there's all of this talk about the monitoring going on by the government, but I don't think people necessarily think enough about what they're just publishing openly on the open internet anyway, and they're giving to these huge institutions like Google, like Facebook, LinkedIn, and the rest of the the social media cohort and the cloud services and so on. So we're all self-publishing this data. If you went back 20 years and people were starting to worry about you being able to be tracked, or being able to put, I don't know, the government putting cameras in our televisions or something like that. Well, if you've bought a PlayStation or an Xbox recently, you've done just that effectively. You put a camera and a microphone in your own home voluntarily, and you're probably carrying a tracking device, which is your smartphone. So it's these things that we've voluntarily done that I think is actually the more interesting thing, and how we protect and regulate that data from everyone is a really important issue that we've got to sort out. But it's the I guess the interesting thing for digital shadows is the amount that's just public is vast, and that's I think one of the things we want to do is raise a bit of awareness about this, so people are a little bit more savvy about what they're leaking out on the internet and what that allows people to do. And it certainly it's one of the things that led us to set up the company, or certainly worried me initially, was seeing the future generations growing up and leaving these huge digital footprints behind them everywhere they go, pretty much from birth, which really wasn't the case for our generation at all. I think I'm quite glad Facebook was invented after I was at university. So it's probably
I had this discussion on London Real where it was like everyone's going to have such a bad digital footprint in 15 years. They're going to hire the person with the least worst. Right. Digital. Oh, you only smoke weed 3 times? Then you can take you in because this guy's done this. Yeah. But I don't know if that's going to be the case.
I don't know. I mean, I think everyone's got to be allowed a bit of a private life. You've got to be doing. I don't think everyone's got pictures of themselves they're probably a bit embarrassed about at some point and whatever. So I can't see that's going to be such a huge part of future employment. But who knows? And I think it's something we've got to bear in mind. But yeah, it was my co-founder James Chappell who's a lot of the brains behind the operation at Digital Shadows, who started thinking more from the company's point of view. What does this all mean? And all this data in aggregate. And when you look at supply chains as well, if you're a company, one of the banks we work with has 17,000 suppliers who all have access to their data. And those suppliers have suppliers. And those suppliers have suppliers. So, if you follow this down, and all these guys are using cloud services, they're using mobile devices, they're on social media, suddenly the footprint of the whole organization is enormous. And that's where we spotted the gap.
Yeah, I had a guest on recently, and he was, Edward Snowden actually worked for Booz Allen and Hamilton. He actually didn't work directly for the CIA. So, you think about all the people and then the other people and the people that have access to the information. And, how many phone calls is it from some triad to get the information from some contractor of the NSA? That's a whole other story.
But he was in the back of a taxi and with Peter Stringfellow. He went in the back of the taxi. Yes, right. He was driving the taxi.
Now, people who don't know who Peter Stringfellow is, who aren't from London, could you give it as a quick description?
Pete, what is he? UFner of London?
Yeah, he runs some nightclubs and strip clubs and things like that.
That's it. So Russell would come out with something like, I had Peter Stringfellow in the back of my cab, and I didn't know whether it was his mum, his daughter, or his girlfriend, something like that.